Well, good evening, everyone. A happy Monday it is. 2 weeks ago, we were on here down in the dumps. 2 weeks later, we're a bit more happier. Let's just say after the weekend's results, just shows you how this is going to be. It's going to be like this every week. I would say with the title fight, it's going to go down, right down to the wire. But it was a fantastic weekend football wise for Rangers. But before we get into it all, we'll start off with Baz. And how does your weekend, mate?
Rangers win. Demons across the city lose. Sure. Yeah. What's the old saying? Cars burnt on weekends. That was a good weekend for us, I tell you. Absolutely fantastic. And the belief is back and it's there, and we're really in the title race. So, yeah, today I'm buzzing. It's really feeling really good.
That's well, as I said, and everyone's going to be excited and happy, and if Rangers keep winning, it means our weekends, Marcus, go a wee bit more smoothly, don't they?
Yeah, very much so. I really enjoyed the game on Saturday night. I thought it was a very efficient, proficient performance. I thought it was excellent. And you extracted a short video on our YouTube site with Baz mentioning last week, it was last Monday, about at the end of it, it's all about 3 points and performances are going to fluctuate, but I thought it was very good performance, and hopefully that can give the guys a lot of confidence. There's a bit of a paradox. Some people are saying that it's a shame that we've got the international break, but I actually of the advocate that I think it's actually not a bad thing now because the confidence is up. Be able to do a little bit of training. Obviously, some players are away, but recharge the batteries, and I don't think it's a bad thing. So I enjoyed the performance on Saturday evening.
Yeah, no. Say the points is the most important thing, but the fact that we played pretty well too definitely helps. 100%. There's CJ saying there somebody actually changed my mood from 2 weeks ago, and see, to be fair, there was a lot of people that got it. I put it on the page. Hearts were Kilmarnock had just done a job on Hearts, and see the amount of people in the comments saying that's the worst thing that could happen. That's the worst thing that could happen. That's just handed salted. The league it's doing nothing for us. And I'm still thinking, I know we're in the dumps, but we're not out of a title fight. And it just shows you, do you know what I mean? A couple of weeks later, how that result can make everything different. But yeah, but it's and evening on. How you doing, mate? And everyone else so far, CJ, Bold and Blue, evening everyone. So before we get into it all, there's a very important person we need to chat about first, Baz, and then Marcus. Will let you have your say too, of course, buddy. But on this day, we unfortunately lost an absolute Rangers legend, far, far, far too young. Davie Cooper, a real hero of mine. I'm sure a hero of yours, Baz and Marcus. I've still got Dad's videotape. I think it was the 1988 season, the season that I was born, and you see wee glimpses of on those teams. It was like showing you old Scottish football, and there was a bit of Motherwell as well. It was just showing you the whole Rangers season, and just seeing even on videotapes back then, Baz, you didn't have internet to see. If you weren't there watching these players, you were very fortunate if you got to see them once or twice on TV. But now we've got the hindsight looking at the videotapes and stuff, and DVDs and YouTubes and stuff, Baz. Obviously for likes of us who maybe didn't see him in the flesh, but what an absolute player. A wonderful, wonderful player, and it's just a pity he's not with us now because he'd have been a cracker to have in and about. When all these players do the halftime draws and they come in, they're always wearing their shirts like Bomber Brown and stuff, Baz. And it's just a pity that Davie Cooper can no longer do that with us, obviously. But what an absolute legend!
Oh, Davy, when you mention the name Davy Cooper, it gives you it's actually giving me the shivers as we speak. You know, legend's a very strong word for lots of players, but for Davy Cooper, it's a no brainer. I mean, technically, probably the greatest player we've ever had. That's and I mean, and that's ahead of the likes of the Gascoignes and the Loudrips and the Willie Andersons and Baxters, and I know we could go through all the names, but Davy Cooper just had something about him that was extra special. And a nice guy, a humble guy. You know, Davy Cooper would not have looked out of place in those famous Brazilian sides. That's how good he actually was. He was fantastic. I mean, left foot, right foot, he could head a ball. he could turn in a sixpence. Absolutely fantastic. And anyone that's on here that never got to see him, go on till your YouTube or wherever it is, you can get the copy of Davie Cooper's previous career, and you will see an absolutely special talent, amazing player, and a well loved and respected man. And they don't make players like that anymore. I mean, naturally gifted isn't the word. Davie Cooper was absolutely fantastic, and I can't speak highly enough about him. And the quote there, I played for the team I loved, and that is genuine with Davie Cooper. He loved playing for Rangers Football Club. I mean, the Davie Cooper in today's market, William, you're talking 100 million plus, easy, and that's not exaggerating. That's not being biased because he's a former Rangers player. I'm just going on the basis of actually how good Davie Cooper was, and anyone that got to see him in the flesh, I'm sure, are very privileged. There's one I'm thinking. William, you're talking about that the tape of Davie, the Davie Cooper. I think it was Rangers Gold. It was called, and the song was from Spandau Ballet, which was the title Gold. And I tell you, see, anytime I hear it coming on the radio or anytime I hear it, all I think about is Davie Cooper. That song just reminds me about him all the time. And I'm sure all the Rangers fans out there will have different types of special memories of him, and they'll have different thoughts on how good he actually was. But I don't think any Rangers fan I've ever spoke to has ever debated that there was anybody technically better than Davie Cooper that played for Glasgow Rangers. And I would argue all day long, none. Brown Loudlips, Gascoignes, blah, 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 blah. Davie Cooper was the best. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I'd say a lot of people, it's always between Loudrup and Cooper and Gascoigne. That's the three names. We've had loads of amazing players, but that's the three names that everyone. If you ask people and say who's your favorite, greatest. Who do you think's the greatest that's ever played? Those are three names, and Davie Cooper's always one of them. That's in that, Marcus. Very highly regarded by a lot of ex-pros from some of the highest teams. Rude Hullet and stuff as well. It said the same that he could play for anyone. That he was the best player he ever played against. I think actually he said. Ray Wilkins says he was a Scotsman trapped in a Brazilian's body. So it's all right. Me and Baz saying this, or yourself, Marcus, or people in the comments. But when you've got class acts like that who played with the best in the world, and they're saying this guy was something different, something special. But just luckily for Rangers' perspective, he was just a homesick guy that didn't want to go anywhere else. Just as Baz said, played for the team he loved, didn't want to go anywhere else, was happy playing for Rangers and wanted that to be his life. Lucky for us, but he could have went anywhere, Marcus, and played his football.
Yeah, I think he's widely revered because, as Baz has said, he's a wonderful player. But I think there was that extra layer, the fact he was a Rangers supporter as well. And the other thing Baz touched upon is, I've read quite a few things, is as a person, he was a really decent person as well, despite being incredibly high profile. And I think that's another reason why he's held in such high esteem. And I love that kit, the CR Smith kit, Umbro kit, very, very classic. And that's really the sort of iconic image I strike of him. It's a sad day, but in a way, it's actually quite uplifting as well, because it makes you realise what a contribution he did make.
Yeah. Well, as I say, we thought that'd be very important to speak about them. I just see God said he was flabbergasted watching Coops play, and he wasn't too shabby himself. That's true, Bolton Blue. That's very true, mate. But as I say, it was very important for us. Davie Cooper is. That's a name that you have to acknowledge at all times. And we'll always will do it. For 31 years today, unfortunately, we lost Davie Cooper. So now we will get into football, as in Rangers today, and how we're getting on in the league. Listen, we've had chats, Baz, yourself, mate. Every Monday we do this. We do it every day. We do it with Marcus as well. We group chats. We're up and down all over the place. With this Rangers team, it's like bipolar, isn't it? It's the most bipolar thing to do in your life is to follow Rangers, because it's absolutely mental every week. But this week was an absolute cracker, Baz. Rangers getting the 4-1 victory Hearts putting us under pressure again. Hearts are grinding those 1-0 wins at Tynecastle. That's a few they've had now. Nothing special about it, but they just get the job done. So it was pressure for us to go out and do the job. With 7 games to go, Rangers went out, great 4-1 victory. Baz, I thought we played pretty well. Obviously, we'll have a laugh about them as well. Losing to Dundee United on the Sunday. But what did you think, Baz, first and foremost, when you seen the team sheet and stuff? Were you happy enough going in, bit of confidence there going into the game?
Well, yeah, I was. I don't want to get on Gassama's back, but I was glad to see Gassama actually on the bench. I thought the way he was setting the team up, Asegard, I wasn't overly fussed on starting. I have to be quite honest. He's another player that hasn't really hit the heights just yet, if I'm being negative about that. But overall, with the team that was put out, I was pretty happy. I was absolutely elated to see Romans and Moore fit and able to start the game. I think that was a massive positive. Because as we'll talk about the game as we go on, but when you've seen through the minutes that them guys were on the pitch, that's where we were actually our most dangerous, was the left-hand side. And both those guys had a fantastic game. Once again, they're absolutely consistent in what they do. So I was very, very happy to see that. I don't mean to be disrespectful to Magoma or maybe a Gassama that had been starting, but I just think Romans and Moore have that extra quality, and that I think they've got I think when you see them, they've got that mentality of a player who knows what it takes to get something over the line. That extra emphasis that they can push the team forward with quality, with desire, with passion. So I was elated with those two. Obviously, we seem to be sticking with Chermiti and Nadiri up front. Some people may argue with Chermiti and Mioski, but overall, I mean, with the two of them starting, I was happy enough. Yeah, it was a good game. And it's like everything. We talked about this before. It's about winning every week now. It's about getting the maximum points. What was really nice about Saturday night was we got the maximum points, but we also played pretty good football. It was a lot better. It was a lot more forward movement. It was a wee bit quicker. And the fans definitely enjoyed that game. So for me, that's a massive positive going forward for the remaining 7 games, that we can produce a performance like that. And let's not forget, this was a Stephen Robinson team. This wasn't the same team that Aberdeen had previously. Stephen Robinson was going to bring in a different tactical, a different mentality to the Aberdeen team coming to Ibrox. And overall, we handled it very well. It was a great 3 points, and obviously put the pressure on them yesterday, which they obviously failed at that particular hurdle. But over and all, cracking weekend, and I actually really enjoyed the match. It was a good game.
What about yourself, Marcus? Just to say, but it's hard to go for instead of going dissecting the whole thing. But what you thought of the match, mate? Team sheet and stuff before getting into it, but your confidence levels, and then how the sort of game went for us, and after that, we'll start bringing up stats and stuff. You'll put up your wee graph and stuff, but we'll let you run down what you thought of that, mate. Anyway, the team sheet and stuff.
Yeah, well, just the one change with Asgard for Gassama, so there was a degree of consistency. I think the back four was right to pick Tavernier. I think that kind of game, a right back is going to be 75% attack and 25% defending. So I think that was a good decision over Sterling. I think it was a right thing. Obviously, Olsen wasn't available because of illness, and all of us, virtually everybody I've spoken to, didn't want Gassama on the right. So somebody's got to play there. Bajrami, did you notice again, wasn't in the squad for the 2nd week running. So there's got to be serious questions over his long-term future. Oliver Antman, I thought he did pretty well when he came on, but he's not quite fit. So somebody's got to play there. And I wasn't actually perturbed the fact Asgard was picked there. I'm not saying he's the finished article long term, but I thought he did okay. And the fact of the matter is that him playing there, I think was better than the previous 2 or 3 games. So I thought that worked pretty well. I think the thing that I'm excited about is that midfield base. I think that Chukwani and Raskin are playing really well together now. I think it's very much a sort of hybrid fluid role. But although he was fairly deep at times, Raskin, I think we discussed it last week, he wasn't having to run back 40, 45 metres and then run back again. He was progressing up the field. And again, I thought he had a really good game, Raskin. So I think that was really encouraging. And as Baz alluded to, I think that left-hand side, Moore and Romans again is bearing fruit. So it's just really the top of the field. We scored 4 goals, which is brilliant. It's just the top of the field, which we'll no doubt discuss as we go through, probably needs to be addressing. Romans makes me laugh. It was something that I noticed when I saw the replay when Raskin put that fantastic ball through to him. I thought he controlled the ball brilliantly. B, he beat the defender brilliantly, and C, he passed the ball to Mikey Moore, and the shot was obviously blocked. And Chukwani, great finish, but because of his momentum, he had to sort of go behind the goal line near the goal post. And if you look at the replay, it's hilarious. Chukwani passes the ball, great finish, and everybody's going ballistic. And he just nonchalantly walks back or runs back to his position, showing no emotion, as if to say, "What's all the fuss about? That's what we've got to do." And I think he's got a little bit of venom about him, that guy, and he's going to be a great player. But no, I think it was a lot better performance. Yes, the opposition were quite limited, similar to when Rangers played Hearts. McInnes had to change structure. So did Robinson. I think he went back to a back 4 in the second half, and that's one of the reasons why they played a bit better. But I just thought there was a bit more cohesion, a little bit more continuity, good work off the ball. There's going to be sterner tests ahead, but I thought overall it was a decent performance.
Yeah, and we're playing a team that's fighting for their lives at the same time. You know, I think with Kilmarnock and St Mirren winning on the day, Aberdeen sort of knew if they had lost, they were only going to be 3 points above that relegation playoff spot. So, you know, so they were a team, and they brought in a good manager there, as Baz says. You know, maybe didn't have that long with them, but definitely tried his best to, you know, to try and keep them sort of stiff at the back, should you say. But I thought Rangers were pretty good. I thought we started really well, and then we started to go through that. Me and Baz were saying, why do we do this? You know, after 10, 15 minutes of really going on it, you started to go slower again. But then they picked up the pace again. Chukwani got that goal. He was unlucky. It was the only time really we looked really threatened. Was, you know, just sometimes it happens, and unfortunately for him, that pass out just went to the straight to an Aberdeen man. And end up getting hurt for it, and then you could be saying to yourself, "Fuck me, this is going to be a tough game." But I thought after that, Rangers really done well to go out and to win the game convincingly. The 4 we thought it should have been 4-1 for Majowski's goal. But obviously VAR they decided to go back half an hour or something, I think, didn't they, for Connor Barron's handball? But there must have been something in that. I'm sure they were all begging me. There must have been something somewhere happened. So they rewind the tape, the same tape they couldn't rewind when Shanklin scored at Ibrox at the start of the season when he handballed it well early on. But when it's Rangers, it seems they find a way of being able to reverse the tapes and having a deeper look. But then again, Tavernier. What about Tav, Baz? I say Mikey Moore, we'll talk about him as well, but we'll start with Tav, I suppose. Great free kick. He was shouting at Majowski and stuff, telling him, be here and duck here, and we were going, what's he at? The next minute, you can't really argue when the ball hits the crossbar and in. Tony Yeboah style, a cracking goal. But what do you think of the say, Baz? You know, where most people probably thinking this is going to be Tav's last season, but when you do things like that, it'll obviously have the other supporters going, hey, he's worth another contract, but for at least another year. But you know, in the end of the day, Baz, it was a great goal, and he played okay.
I'll slightly touch on the debate on Tavernier. I mean, Marcus alluded earlier on there to the fact that it was the right decision to play Tavernier in that particular game, and Marcus is 100% correct, because there's going to be sterner tests down this road, certainly when the split happens, and we have to go to Hearts, we have to go to the Evans across the city. Well, you know, they're going to be tough games, and there's absolutely no doubt that Sterling, if fit, will play in probably both of those games. So I think what Danny Rowe's now doing is, we all know Sterling can get injured in a millisecond and can be out for weeks. We all know that. His injury record's horrendous. But when he's fit, he's definitely the best right back we have, and especially in terms of defensive. And it looks to me that Danny Rule that's gonna be what's gonna happen. If we play Hearts, if we play Celtic, he's gonna start. I think we all know that. And that comes to my point, and where I'm talking about Tavernier. It was a fantastic free kick, and we've seen that for years. He's got that in his locker, absolutely. Your legs don't go taking free kicks. Your legs go when you're in open play. And in terms of Tav, I think if he does stay next year, William, it has to be as a backup role. Because if you can't play against Hearts and Celtic now because there's a better player that's fitted to those games, he's not going to be a first 11 player next season if he does stay. I'd actually personally, and I've said this in previous podcasts, I would love, as Tavernier as captain, to lift the title this year and then have his 10 years and move on. That's my personal opinion, because I've seen this with other clubs that certain players, when you start to see them declining, they then start having bad seasons where they just can't keep up anymore. And I'd like to see Tavernier go on top, Rangers to lift the title, him to hold it as captain, and to move on to pastures new. That's my personal opinion. That's what I think should happen, and I think that would be a great end to his Rangers career.
That rookie system again, that mute button. Well, I was just saying there what Baz was saying there about Tav, and he is right. There's no doubts about it. When Rangers go to Parkhead and Tynecastle, Sterling will be playing right back. There's not even, to me, not even a doubt about it. When Motherwell come to Ibrox Park and the split, Sterling will be starting, no doubt about it. If he's fit, he will play those 3 games. I have no doubt about it. But that isn't really the argument, Marcus says it. It's the argument is he good, is he a good option to have from the bench for next season or games where, like say yesterday, when there's games where you should be winning against the poor Aberdeen side, you can have the likes of him on and keep Sterling just under reserve, obviously. But as Baz says, it's the situation of, can you stay too long? But if he scored a couple of, quite a few important goals this season. Not as much as normal, but we do know he's just not the player he was with the legs. We know that. But if he was to lift the title as the captain this season, it would probably be the perfect end. Rather than, as Baz said there as well, Marcus, he could go again next year and just, because a couple of months into the new season, doing another pre-season, and be even a wee bit more slower again, and then that gives you more pressure, and from the fans, a lot of the fans don't think he should be given another contract. But it's all about opinions, isn't it, Marcus? And Tav has a lot of supporters as well. I would love to see him back for it.
I think it will come to a natural end. Players towards the end of their career often, quite understandably, 1 to 2 year contract. It happened with Frank Lampard. He left Chelsea actually quite acrimoniously in the end. Don't blame him. He wanted a 2 year contract. Chelsea wanted a 1 year, and he left. So I think everyone thinks Rangers have got the trump card. I wouldn't surprise me, understandably, if he wants an extended contract, and maybe Rangers will turn around and say, look, we can give you a year, because I agree. I think as a squad player and his experience around the training ground would be first class. But I've just got a hunch that it'll just come to not an acrimonious end, but probably come up and just finish, to be honest, irrespective of what the outcome of the season is. Because he's been a great servant. I think he was probably at his best when the team were playing in the lower divisions, etc. So he actually, in many senses, sort of held the team together. Unfortunately, things gradually improved, although we were appalling in most of the SPL seasons. So he has been a really good servant for the club. But I'll be very surprised if he's at the club next year.
Yeah. I'm going to move on to, as I say, we've got a couple of players to sort of pick out, and we'll go through the stats as well of the game, but we'll start off with Nadiri. And I thought this was a cracking stat, because a lot of people have been saying, he doesn't offer enough, he hasn't scored enough goals, which I understand, because he does need to get those numbers up, but he's doing a lot of the donkey work, and I think this actually proves it. So his counter pressures from team rank was first, match rank first. Ariel Jules, he was first in that as well, in the out of everyone on the pitch. Earl Jules won in the final third, where it's very important to win those balls, where we don't win a lot of balls in the final third. We can lose games sometimes by not doing that. He was first in the overall match. Line breaking passes received, 12, second in the match rank and team rank. Assists first, and total distance run 12.2 kilometers, first of anyone on the pitch, done the most running as well, Baz. And I think those stats sort of tells you, doesn't it, why he's in the team. And I know people sometimes just look, he's a striker, score more, and I get that. But what he offers that team, Baz, running power, aerial duels, all that donkey work, that dirty work sometimes that people don't see or don't, I think those stats tell you a lot. He does a lot on the pitch.
Well, if you look at the likes of, say, Chermiti doesn't do that type of running that what Nadiri does. He doesn't do as much tracking back. He doesn't try and hold the line as well as Nadiri. Unfortunately for strikers, most average supporter will look at the goal stats that they return for you rather than the overall shopping basket, as I would say. But when you look at those particular stats, I actually said this to Marcus before we come on live. The kilometers for a goal for a striker is incredible. That is some distance to cover for a striker, because strikers can, I watched the Man City game yesterday and I watched Holland, and Holland got very little of the ball yesterday. But you don't see, it's the unseen work. It's dragging players away. It's getting in the mix. It's finding the right space. It's bringing other players into play, and that's what's very, very important. And that's the player we haven't had till Nadiri's arrived at our club. No player has been able to, in the forward line, produce those type of stats. He's a big physical lad. He gives everything, 100%.
It's over 7.5 miles, Baz.
It's incredible for a striker. Yeah. Absolutely incredible to get those yards in. And what I've also noticed is, I don't know how you have noticed in the last couple of games, he's been the striker that's been left on. So you take the amount of kilometers that he's doing. Roll's not taking him off and going, right, we need a rest in that area. He's done a lot of work a day. He's pushing him harder. He's pushing him further. And for me, that's to give Nadiri that extra minutes of there's a difference between being fit and there's a difference between being match fit. And these minutes that Nadiri's putting in are absolutely vital. And come the end of the season, I mean, if Nadiri was to pull out stats like that away to Tynecastle or at Celtic Park, that's what you're looking. That sort of guy who's going to do all that hard work does get unseen to the naked eye of what he's actually putting in. But I'm just hoping even the guys that are watching these today are looking at those stats and maybe might appreciate Nadiri, that extra of what he actually produces for the team. They're incredible stats. The distance running for me is incredible. It really is.
Just before we say, Fraser became a YouTube member, Fraser McDonald. Thank you very much, buddy. Really appreciate that, mate. I'm sure everyone will welcome in the comments. It's a good wee brotherhood we've got going on here. It's a wee family we have. So I really appreciate you, mate, becoming a member of that family. Thanks from myself, Baz and Marcus, because it helps us do this, basically. So thank you very much, mate, and I really do appreciate that. Marcus, so what about yourself then, looking at those? I know you love your stats, and we're going to get your wee graph up you made earlier, mate, but what do you think of those stats, just looking at Nadiri's work rate and aerial duels, might have running off the ball, line breaking, passes received? Yeah, he's doing a lot.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you said. Thanks to Fraser there. That's a great help for us. The one thing that impresses me about Nadiri is his selflessness. And I think he had one opportunity, a header from Antman's cross. I wouldn't say it was a clear-cut chance. That's one of the few, but he's more or less sort of playing as a 9.5, really, isn't he? He's standing back from Chermiti. He's more or less doing the job of a number 10. So in fairness to him, he's not necessarily getting the premium opportunities to score goals. But there are a couple of things that really impressed me. Was the Raskin again did really well to win the ball to Ryan Nadiri, and a great ball to Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore still had a lot to do, but I thought it was a fantastic through ball to the left that led to Mikey Moore's goal. And again, there was something I felt got unrecognised because the goal was chalked off, but Majowski's goal in inverted commas that back heel flick that Nadiri did was brilliant, was absolutely brilliant. He had his facing the goal. He completely outfoxed the defence. A good finish, but it's things like that. That's not a goal, but that is a high level of skill. And I think you touched on it right at the start of the show, William, that at some stages, I'm not talking about 3 or 4 minutes, but 20, 25 minutes, I'd really like to see Nadiri and Majowski acting as a pair and see if the dynamic changes, and that we might see a little bit more evidence of what Ryan Nadiri can actually do as an out and out striker. I know they're probably interchange, but I think those stats are very enlightening, and they tell a story that the work that he's doing for the betterment of the team is first class, and I think he's had a really strong start to his Rangers career.
Yeah, he has. I agree with you, mate. I agree, 100%. So I'm going to put these stats up, Marcus, that you gave us. You tell me what you look in these stats and what you see and what's impressing you the most, and then we'll let Baz then take straight after you stop speaking. We'll let Baz come in there.
So as always, we stick to the plain vanilla stats. We're not talking about XG or anything. So if we look at the first half, I think it just clearly illustrates how dominant we were. Okay, and Aberdeen really barely got an opportunity whatsoever. Again, completely dominated possession. And I think some of the game was actually won there because I think we knocked the stuffing out of them a bit. Again, same problem there with the 11 shots, 2 on target. We only got the 1 goal. Good pass completion, but again, Baz is right. That's not always a true indication if they're short passes. But I thought our passes were better, Baz. I think we were actually going forward this time, so that was a good thing. So first half we were completely dominant. I think Robinson then changed it a little bit to a back 4, and you can see there that the possession for Aberdeen was a lot stronger. So if we quickly flick to that plus and minus, if we did this exercise of against Celtic in the 2-2 draw, and the second half was alarming the way it's dropped, but it hasn't been that bad here. Yes, the possessions dropped a little bit, we dropped the shots a little bit, but what was good were the shots were on target, that went up, and we obviously scored 3 goals, 3 different kind of goals, and the pass completion went down a little bit. But overall, I think the second half performance held up, and we have been guilty, I think, of playing like one half, whether it's the first half or whether it's the second half, quite well without really being consistent. And I think that although they're red there because technically they've gone down, I don't think there was a lot of difference. And as a consequence, even though we made a balls up on conceding the goal, I didn't think we looked under too much pressure, to be honest, and went through. And I thought we were far more clinical, not from the forwards, but things in general. 3 different goals in the second half, an open field goal, and then 2 set pieces in effect. So if we look at the total, again, really dominated possession. Again, we are creating more shots and target compared with 2 months ago, without doubt. We scored 4 goals, so that is encouraging, and then good pass completion. And you can see, as far as Aberdeen's concerned, there was a bit of an uplift there. You can see in their performance, but we really, in effect, only restricted them to 1 shot on target. So with and without the ball, I think that we are making progress. And I know people will say Aberdeen have had a poor season, but then we didn't play that well against a struggling St Mirren team the week before. So it'll be interesting to see what you guys deduct from that table.
Yes, so okay. As I said, see this quick way Noob says, fantastic stats, lads, really helps us understanding. We need to get you. We need to make your wee noise. Or when he follows behind you, we can play. He's a stat man. Every time we put these up for you, Marcus. But Baz, what do you think, mate? Looking at the stats, it sort of does. It gives you a wee bit more of an insight of how the actual game played out. Now, yes, I understand Aberdeen stats got a wee bit better in the second half, but that was always going to happen. Stevie Robinson was no shrewd-eyed manager. He was going to look at what he could improve from his team, what were they lacking. He's still learning with his players and stuff, got a wee bit more out of them. But even at the same time, maybe our stats just didn't look as good on the eye. But even though that's where we got most of our goals, and finish off the game. But I think all in all, the stats look pretty good.
I mean, if you look at the possession, first half possession 71%. That's a great stat for any home team to be having. But again, it's what goes down the table. Possession isn't everything. Possession is only good if you use it in the right manner and you use it positively. And we've said this a million times. If you keep playing at the back and do passy, you can get those percentages way up. What's quite impressive is in the possession where we go into the red in the second half, that's not surprising because obviously Robinson makes tactical changes, so that enables their percentage to go up.
Yeah.
What's the most impressive thing for me is a lower percentage drops, our quality of on-shot targets goes up. And for me, that's the team working harder to produce the right moments, rather than just having constant possession and shooting on sight. For me, that's a fantastic stat for us to have.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what wins you games. You have to shoot on target. You have to make the goalkeeper work. And that stat for me stands out. If you're looking at on an Aberdeen perspective, the fact that yes, in the second half, we those stats go well for us. Stephen Robinson can take great heed in the second half performance that they were able to produce, having such a poor first half that they have been able to up their levels slightly, and then the second half for them is going on at the end of the season. It also shows that stat for them. But yeah, I mean the stats are good. What we need to do is with those stats is for the remaining 7 games, we need to be on the same trajectory. I'd like to see slightly shots more on target in some of the other games that we have coming up. But if your conversion rate is as good as what we had against Aberdeen, considering the amount of shots we had on target, that's actually quite high. I mean, 4 goals out of 7 shots on target, that's a good return. So it's Marcus has drawn me into these stats now. I wasn't a massive fan of stats, but he's slowly pulling me into these, but but what I've always said is at the end of the game, back the stats up with what's the most important stat is the final score, and the 4-1 justifies all those stats that Marcus has got it done for us today. So I'm very happy with those.
William,
yeah.
I just want to explain. I'm sure the eagle-eyed viewers that there's an error on my part on the table. That in the first half, Aberdeen was actually no shots and 0 on target. So it was 6 and 1, which is the total. So that again was even more impressive with regard to the back 4.
Oh, right, okay, mate, no worries, sir. Just keeping yourself right in case someone in the comments sees that comes in and goes, hey,
I deliberately made that error to see if anybody would notice it.
Just quickly while we're here, so if you would hit the like, I always forget to do it, so it's my apologies. If it wasn't for Scott, he reminds me all the time. You can become a member of the show if you would like, for as little as 99p, and it's quite cheap. We've put it as low as we possibly could, to be fair. So it's, if you would like to do that, you can. It does help us out. Every little helps. And also, if anyone who's been wanting to comment, you have to subscribe to the show. Only be subscribed for a minute or so to come on for the. Well, you understand why, because it's sort of deter certain ones coming on and saying bad comments, but I'm sure they'll probably be doing probably hiding actually this weekend, so I'm sure they'll not be anywhere near us today. They'll not want to be watching us enjoying their downfall over the weekend. So we'll go into, let me see, Mikey Moore. So Mikey Moore had absolutely fantastic Baz. A lot of the players were Raskin and stuff were writing back to him on Instagram saying sign the contract and funny things like that, Romans and stuff. But after the game, he says, I'm so grateful to the fans for the way they've treated me the whole time I've been here. It's always special every time I hear my name being sung. I'm going to make the most of every minute I put on the shirt for the rest of the season. And he's also said, when he was asked after the game that he would love and to come back again next season, which you don't hear a lot from loan signings because mostly they just do their loan signing and they go. But we understand with Spurs situation, there's a lot that can happen there. If they go down, they could probably look at the likes of Mikey Moore and go, you know what, he'd be perfect for us in this championship. If they stay up, they'll probably be throwing, as these teams do down south, throwing hundreds of millions at it to try and sort themselves out, which normally never works. And that could maybe see the likes of us getting Mikey again. But what's your thoughts on Mikey Moore overall, Baz? He's definitely starting to grow at the perfect time for us, isn't he? Like at the perfect time, because he was young to start, taking him a while to get in. That all was going to happen, but you're starting to see him now really kicking on, and this is the business end of the season, so it's perfect.
And you know something? That's what separates the elite players from the average players. They're the players that step up to the mark when you really need them the most, and Mikey Moore is doing that in abundance. He's a class act. And we'll probably not. We'll look back on Mikey Moore in years to come, William, and we'll appreciate what Mikey has done for the club, regardless of whether Mikey Moore's back next season or not. That won't matter. Would I love to see him back next season? Absolutely. I think he's got that Rangers mentality, that winning mentality. He gets what Rangers are all about. He buys into the fans. He buys into the ethos. He buys into the structures and the fabric of the whole club. And that is very rare for especially a young fella at 18 years of age who's came the whole way from England up until new surroundings into an absolute cauldron. I mean, Mikey Moore's been involved in the very lowest I've seen Rangers in a long time to potentially being at one of the very highest, considering where we are in the table. And he's that young fella doesn't get enough credit. He does get good credit. I don't think he gets enough. His work rate, his off the ball play. We talk about Nadiri. I would say Mikey Moore's running stats must be proven high too, because he, even if he loses the ball, he doesn't put his head down. He chases back. He tries to win it again. And you know, having a player like that coming towards the end of the season, there's no team in the SPFL has a player that's as special as Mikey Moore, and we're very, very fortunate to have him on our side right at this minute. Will he be here next season? I don't know. What I would say to every Rangers fan at this moment in time is there's 7 games, and as long as Mikey Moore stays fit for those 7 games, enjoy the lad, and just be in a very privileged position that you're getting to see such a great player playing at this football club. That's what I would say. I'm sure Rangers are doing their talking already. We can go down the road of Spurs are in a very precarious position, because a lot of fans are thinking, oh, Spurs get relegated, they'll have to fire sale. You made a great point, William. They may get relegated and they may look at Mikey Moore as the player to get them back up. You know, they'll not have to go into the market and spend 20, 30, 50 million on players. They've got players already there. So that might actually go against us, Spurs maybe getting relegated, if you look at it in that way. But look, you know, he's playing with emotion at the minute. I'm sure once he goes back down south at the end of the season and he reassesses himself with his family and with the club, who knows what might happen. You might not see Mikey Moore back again, but if he doesn't come back, I can certainly, as a Rangers fan, look at Mikey Moore at this moment in time and look back at Mikey Moore and say that young fella at 18 years of age gave absolutely everything to that jersey and never shied away. And I'll tell you another thing he's very good at, William, is talking. You see, doing interviews, you see how he addresses himself and how he comes across. That young lad is definitely going to go to the different heights. He's just got everything. He ticks every box for me.
Just quickly, Marcus, sorry, before you chat on that, just let's talk football careers. It's a friend of ours. And he does a lot of great interviews with a lot of great, all sorts of players from all around the world, actually, some really top legends, but he could have the possibility of a massive guest. We'll not reveal the name yet, but it could be someone that maybe wore blue and also wore white. We will at a certain stage as well, for club and country. So, but we'll see how that one goes. Fingers crossed. Hope that one works out for you, buddy. But if you go on to Let's Talk Football Careers and give him a wee follow and stuff, and seriously, backlog of interviews he's got is really incredible, and a lot of them with Rangers players, ex-Rangers players too. So, give him a wee follow, guys, and help him out, because he deserves a lot more subscribers than what he has. To be fair, he does a lot of great work. So, Marcus, yourself, mate, on Mikey Moore.
I agree with what Bolden Blue said. I think mentally he's been very strong. A 17-year-old coming into a massive environment, playing in a hapless team, playing in a position that probably wasn't his best, and yet he's come through that and he demands the ball, and he's got great skill levels. So I think mentally he's just been fantastic, and he's been great. My brother, who I speak to every morning, he lives a couple of 100 miles away, is a massive Spurs fan. So the first thing he said this morning was, "Oh, I saw Mikey Moore scored." So he's keeping a very close eye, and he was saying that Spurs, irrespective of relegation or not, they're not in the best financial state, and will probably have to sell players. And it's weird because you can sort of second guess and think, does that mean they would sell him or keep him or whatever? And I'm not sure. I think the sobering thing for me is when you think Brennan Johnson, who scored in the Europa Cup final, Mikey Moore, was on the bench for Spurs. He was sold to Crystal Palace for 35 million, and Spurs bought Conor Gallagher for 35 million from Spain, from Atletico Madrid, and it makes you realise, as far as a sale, how much is Mikey Moore worth, or more to the point, Premier League club, if he was for sale, would snap him up. So I'm not trying to be negative. I think the best thing that could potentially happen next year is if variables come up that he might be offered on another season's loan. I think that's probably the best we can have. But I've more or less sort of tried to resign the fact I think he's fantastic and just enjoy it, why he's here, and then see what materialises. And who knows, we might be able to offer him the highest tier of European football next year.
I'd say our wee Russian friend. He always pitches up, but I know the first part is a greeting, is hello. I don't know what the second part means, but hello to you too, hello to you too, mate. Let me just see where else we're gonna go to here. Oh, a stat I wanted to chat to you about, guys. Actually, I heard this today on Rangers review this morning, which I couldn't believe. Derek Clark let us know this one. So Rangers, Celtic, and Hearts have only won, all won on the same weekend once this season, Baz. Once. There hasn't been a time that apart from the one weekend, Rangers, Celtic, Hearts have not won every week. And it shows you how important it is if we can get more wins than that these last 7 games. Because if you continue the trend, someone out of the three is always dropping points somewhere, which is an incredible stat, and it probably proves why everyone's still in a dogfight and nobody's really run away with it.
I didn't know that myself. That's the first I've heard of that stat, and that's actually quite incredible. It probably justifies why the points tally probably isn't just as high this season as in previous seasons for many runaway leaders. We all think the Hearts were running away with it, but I put the league tables up, Marcus, for us. It was yesterday, from when Russell Martin got sacked to
Yes, I saw it,
last weekend. And the catch-up that Rangers have done in that period of time has been phenomenal. So it's not that Hearts have run away with anything. That's not true. And what would coincide with what Derek Clark said this morning is the fact that every team's dropping points and they're not winning all together is another positive for Rangers, because while these teams have been dropping points, we have obviously been gaining points a lot more than what the other two teams have. But considering where our league position is now, and for me, that coincides with what a great job Danny Rule has actually done with this team, and it's remarkable what Danny Rule has done. I know there was a couple of games there with the Motherwell and the Hibs, etc., and the Emmons, when we played Celtic at home and we should have won that game. But what it proves is that going to the very last game of the season, this is going to go to the wire. I really do think that. I mean, I think ultimately, and I'm not saying this in biasness, I honestly do think come the last 2 games, I think it'll definitely be between Rangers and Hearts. That's who I think that is going to take the title. I just think the momentum's there, the quality on the two sides is better than the Emmons across the city from us. Genuinely, I do honestly believe that. But when you look at stats like that, this this could be a nervy 7 games. If that trajectory stays in the way it's been, it could be very, very nervous come the last 2 or 3 games of the season. But I think we can do it. There's no reason why, especially what I've seen on Saturday, and some of the play that were able to play on Saturday, and the quality that we do have, even coming from the bench. I mean, we alluded to earlier on, Sterling's being rested for big games. When was the last time we were able to do things like that? We never could. So William Nobles has get that helicopter warmed up. Honestly, I think this could be one of the craziest ends to the seasons in recent memory. I really, really do. Hey, by the way, I hope it comes to Rangers. I hope it's not too crazy where we don't get it. But yeah, it's you've really been able to think with that Derek Clark one. That definitely, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting stop, Marcus, isn't it? We're talking about the 3 runaway leaders, as you would try and say, and I don't think anyone's running away with it really. Like even the 4th place Motherwell. Now I know they've lost a couple of games in a row there, which is or they've dropped points, and they're a wee bit out of it now. Obviously, well, they're out of the league race, but I mean for that fight for 3rd spot, even it's probably maybe a wee bit too much from them, but they were in there for quite a long time. And when could you say 4th place? We're being talked about this deep into the seasons, and I suppose when you're hearing that, the 3 teams have only won once, all 3 in one weekend once this season, it sort of does allude to why it's been so nip and tuck.
Yeah, Baz's WhatsApp prompted me to do a bit of research, and so since Danny Roll's been taken over, I'm talking about the SPL now. 23 games, 16 wins, 6 draws, 1 loss, 448 against 17. So that's 54 out of 69 points. It's remarkable. The other thing I found, again, prompted me to do a bit of research, is it's a bonkers season. As you know, we've only lost 2 games all year, all season. So going through the 4 leagues, the English leagues and the Scottish leagues, there's a bit of distortion in some of the lower English leagues because they play slightly more, but most of the games are played very similar, 30, 31 games. So we've lost 2. Arsenal have lost 3. This is the least losses, yeah. Coventry and Ipswich Town lost 7. Lincoln City 5. Bromley 4. We know we've only lost 2. Scottish Championship, St Johnstone 3. Inverness Callier 4 in the Scottish League 1, and the Scottish League 2. Clyde have lost 5. So in the 8 divisions, we've lost less than anybody else. It's just bonkers, isn't it?
It's the draws that have killed us, Marcus.
And that's a team that was branded at the start of the season one of the worst Rangers teams that we can recall for many a year. And I think going back is that I think it's fair to say that Danny Roll isn't exempt from some criticism, particularly some of the subs and some of the away games. But if you actually look at it overall, he's well in credit. I think it's remarkable. And obviously when the expectation goes up, the pressure releases, and you think things could have been done better. I'm not saying he's exempt from criticism or scrutiny, but if you actually look at where we were and where we are, and let's not forget, we've only added 4 players, of which 3 have functioned, one of them very, very well, and I think 2 of them are doing well, and one unfortunately hasn't. So it's not as if you suddenly got 6 or 7 players. I think it's fundamentally the similar squad, and what he's managed to extract from the group of players has, I think, been really impressive.
Yeah, no, I agree with you guys on that. It has been impressive, but this is the problem. You see, when you're so much pressure at Rangers and we're so desperate, and if you have a couple of bad games in a row like we did against Celtic, for being honest, not that we were really terrible the whole time. When if you look at probably 3 halves out of 4, I thought we were the better team. Only time was the time they came back in the first game, the second half, and dominated the match. I thought all the other halves, but it's all about scoring goals, but people were losing their heads, at that stage, and that's what happens with the pressures on. But now we're got ourselves and we're looking a bit better, then people will level their heads a bit more, everyone as supporters, and say, he hasn't done too bad, he hasn't. He's done really well. Like, it's and the good thing for us is the likes of something is that poor this season. Otherwise, they'd have never, when we were in that position after Russell Martin left, I would say a Celtic team any the last 2 or 3 years, apart from this season, would have been gone. They've been long gone by now, no matter how good our form was. So it's been lucky for us too that they've been a bit poor, but we needed to keep winning, which we have done in most games. That's what's got us into this good position that we're in now. But I'm scared to get too excited, because I did say, do you remember, guys, a couple of weeks ago, here's me, there's no doubt we'll get ourselves into this again. And that's when the pressure's on. That's when, going away to Falkirk isn't just, it's only Falkirk. You know what I mean? That's when it's like, we need to win today. If we want to win this title, we have to go there and win. You have to beat Dundee United at Ibrox. Can't be any stupidity, or silly drop points. And this is where this team will win or lose the league title. Same as Hearts, and Hearts have been dropping points, but they haven't been dropping them week on week. The drop points here, and then to get themselves together and to get a couple of wins together again. But they have tough games. Livy is going to be tough for them. Livy, under Martin partly, definitely look a bit more dogged than what they were under Martindale. Just wasn't working under Martindale, unfortunately, for them. They've got a tough game at Tynecastle against Motherwell before the split. Celtic have a tough game to Dundee. Dundee United was tough. Dundee's going to be another tough one for them. They've already lost up there in Dundee. 3 times they've lost up in Dundee this season. Once against United, twice against United, and once against Dundee. They have to go there again. So, if Rangers get 2 wins going into the split, we could be in a really good position, and I think Celtic and Hearts both have to go away to Fir Park in the split, which is going to be difficult as well for them. So it's there for Rangers if we keep the game heads on and go and get these wins, But I'm hoping we'll do the business, Baz, against Dundee United. Say we'll talk more about it next Monday, because obviously we have it's a bit of an international break, Northern Ireland stuff for us, a big playoff against Italy, which is going to be tough to get to the World Cup. But just looking at it now briefly, you need to be going there getting 3 points, don't you, Baz? And then all focus then on that away game against Falkirk. And if you get your 6 points getting into the split, it gives you a huge opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge opportunity for Rangers, because we have to go. We have to play Hearts. And that's 3 points that you can take off them, and that levels the playing field. If results to stay on a victory to victory for both teams till that game, so it's all to play for. I do see all teams possibly finding a game again where they may not get exactly what they want, but if that's the case, we got to just make sure we get our majority share, and that's all you can ask for. The Dundee United game at home is a 3-pointer. That's what you expect at Ibrox, and the fans will be absolutely buzzing for that game. When that game comes around, Ibrox is going to be absolutely crazy.
Baz, you win that game, you're going in top of the league before anyone else gets a chance to kick a football.
Well, exactly, and sometimes in previous time zones we have faltered to the Steve in that. So
exactly.
This will, if we can, if we can beat Dundee United at home and we can sit at the top of the tree, that will say a lot more about this team. That will show about the resilience and actually where they're at their headspace, and where they think, and whether or not they think they can genuinely clinch this title, because that would be a moment. We're talking slightly there, Marcus, about where we were to where we are now. If we beat Dundee United, we actually go top of the league. I mean, if we had said this last October, nobody would have believed you. Nobody would have thought it was absolutely possible we could have got ourselves in that position. And the fact that we've done that actually shows a lot more about this squad than people give them genuine credit for, and how they've actually clawed their way back. We can talk about Celtic dropping points here and dropping points there, and not the team they were. Hearts have been pretty consistent, to be fair to them. They haven't lost a lot of games themselves. So the fact that we have actually clawed that back is incredible. What I would say is that, when we talk about Celtic, a better Celtic team would have won the league. Well, if Danny Rule had been there at the start of the season and got the players that he wanted in, we could have probably walked that league ourselves. So all to play for. I'm looking forward to Dundee in any game, and I think if we win it and we can go top, that might just be the pinnacle moment of the season for us to stay there and actually stay top and go on and lift that trophy.
I just love to see Gary here, Marcus. Just for you, I still can't believe we're in a title race this season. It's been crazy. If I had said to anyone, look, think about it, guys. 2 games into this season, Paddy Barr were on bumping their gums, saying, "Right, we've paid it out. It's over. We've seen enough. Our Rangers team's useless. Sadly, to win the league again." Do you know what I mean? 2 games into this season, I think it was 2, or was it 4? I can't remember. It was a few games in. It wasn't even a month. You know what I mean? So nobody expected Hearts to do what they've done, Marcus. Nobody expected Rangers to be so poor, and definitely nobody expected us. Nobody in their right mind would have been saying once Russell Martin was leaving, Rangers could be in the mix, even in the discussion. I think the infamous video now for Martin O'Neill when he kept saying Rangers are so far out of it, it's untrue, that sort of stuff. But it just shows you what can happen, Marcus. In football, never say die, keep believing. Big Marvin Andrews sort of thing. I've seen a lot of his pictures flying about now. Baz is tagging him and things. Everything last Monday. Now there's all the pages are using Marvin Andrews as a bit of a cult hero again. If they all keep believing, but it's true. It's there for us. If we really grasp it, it can be there, and that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Hearts and Motherwell have only lost 5 games themselves. So again,
I know, it's incredible. It's really good.
They've had very, very good seasons. So maybe the mentality of the Rangers team. The fact is that I thought it was good on Saturday that they were aware of the Hearts game. They gave away a goal which wasn't necessary, but even at 2-1, I think it was 4 to 5 minutes after, I didn't think they looked particularly perturbed about it. I think, going back to my earlier point, I think some of the units now are really starting to click together. And I wasn't at the game, but I can only see what I've seen on TV. But I think 1 or 2 of the players were starting to lay into each other, not necessarily in a negative thing, but I think that there's probably a bit of a desire now to think, do you know what, we can, if we apply ourselves, we can really do well. So maybe, hope I'm not tempting fate now, but that sort of mentality tag, which was branded, maybe the confidence level has grown. I've always thought in any sport, in football, a lot of the mentality comes down to confidence. If there's a bit of a lack of confidence, that can make the mentality fragile. So hopefully with the confidence, the way the team are playing, they've got their goal difference above Hearts as well, then they should go into under a lot of pressure, but with a great degree of optimism.
Yeah, and I agree that swing is bad. Just before we finish, Baz, we'll end on this, but that swing, and Marcus just said there, of goal difference, with us going +3 against Aberdeen, Celtic then losing 2. Anyway, I think that's 8 goal difference above them. So basically, if you're sitting there, it's an extra point. Basically, the way I look at it sometimes, because you've got that, your goal difference when it's so high like that. And obviously, as Marcus says, they're above Hearts and stuff too. So it means, if you get that win, you by merit, you win it by merit. If as in, your goal difference as well. But it was something we kept looking at the St. game and stuff, and we're like, oh, that was a great opportunity for us to get these goals. But they went and done it in the weekend there, which was fantastic. And we know we've seen it before. How many times have we seen it before? The goal difference in this league sometimes when it goes to the last day can be very important.
Cool. We've talked about, previously, for 1-1-0 every game the rest of the season, then everybody would be happy. But when you look at how close it is, we do need to keep that goal tally going up. And it's very important when when we look at Marcus's stats earlier on there that he put up, especially in the second half, that your shots on target are producing goals and you're producing and those stats stay high. And if they do that, then Rangers will be fine. I honestly do believe that. I mean, obviously, there's hard games coming up, especially at Tynecastle, especially at Celtic Park. But like, it's there for the taking.
Yeah, and Jim Sloan, the legend, Jim Sloan. Thank you very much, buddy, for giving our 5 gifted memberships. Absolutely fantastic. What a way to sort of to wind it down, Marcus. Absolutely fantastic
Brilliant.
from Jim there. Thank you very much, mate. That's unbelievable. Thank you. I really appreciate that, buddy. That's a crack. That's a good way to end it, isn't it?
Very much so, Jim. That's brilliant. I think we finish on a real high now, so that's fantastic. So thanks for supporting us.
Yeah.
Just one last thing. Northern Ireland Thursday night. Hopefully everybody's cheering us on and we go and beat the Italians in their backyard. We were talking about this before Marcus came on, and he was asking us, do we think we can do it? Well, let's see that positivity I've had all podcast. I'm saying we can do it now, Marcus. We've got it. Northern Ireland can do it too. So so good luck to Northern Ireland Thursday night. Huge game. Massive game for a World Cup qualifier in the semi-final against Italy. And on the way Northern Ireland.
Yep. Yeah. As I say, good luck to Northern Ireland. Our lads. It's going to be tough. But then it's I just keep thinking to myself, that Northern Ireland team to me are cracking wee side. Michael O'Neill's done a great job with him and Stevie Davis, and we were taking a lot of pummelings there, to be fair, Marcus, for a while, that young team, but Michael O'Neill kept saying, nope, I'm sticking with them. We were getting beat all the time, coming last in the group or the Nations Leagues and all the group stages, went right to the bottom, and everyone he just kept saying, nope, I'm telling you, this young group of players, I'm sticking with them. They're going to grow together, 19, 18, 20, and it's starting to come out trumps now. They're starting to play well. They're a danger for anyone at Windsor Park. They can play some lovely football. Like Isaac Price and stuff. Heck, guys, absolutely. I would love to see him at Rangers, to be honest, that last round or the window before. Unfortunately, not this time, but maybe in the future. I'd love to see him at Rangers. Great wee goal scorer. But you never know, Marcus. You never know. In football, anything can happen. It's a one-off shootout, and it's like anything. It's a massive game for Italy, obviously. They're expected to win. We can go there with no pressure, but if it's staying 0-0 for a certain amount of time, Northern Ireland's maybe getting into the game a wee bit. The Italian fans will get on the players' back, and the nervous comes. And they've had bad results before, not too long ago, actually, and got knocked out of a tournament by a smaller side. So it can happen.
I really admire the Northern Irish coaching team. There's that saying that you either get better players or make players better. And obviously, if you're a representative team, i.e. Northern Ireland, you can't sign players. You've got to really work with the players, the same with any international country. And as you've referred to, that there's a group of players there that clearly have been well coached and clearly are improving. And I think that really shows true value of a coaching team. And those two guys have done a fantastic job. We were discussing again off air that playing at Atlanta Stadium, about 25,000. I don't think the Italian public is particularly in love with their team. It's been very, very erratic. So I think if the Northern Irish team get off to a really good start, not necessarily score, but be on the ascendancy, then I think that could stand them in good stead. So I wish them all the best.
Yep. And on that note, we'll sort of end it. But as I say, listen, Northern Ireland has just coming away from the Rangers thing for a minute. Northern Ireland, I said, they're a good young team, attacking wise, very dangerous. And I think they can cause a few problems. Not going to say they're going to win it, but I don't think we'll be embarrassed anyway. I think we'll give it a good slugfest, and we don't know. We'll maybe get on a wee live or something before the game or something. I'll try and get on, do something maybe for that, because everyone over here is going to be absolutely buzzing for that one, of course. Just quickly before we go, I want to thank our Baz. I want to thank Marcus, as always. He come on every Monday with us, the Hands Across the Water team. Fraser McDonald for becoming a member of the show, and Jim Sloan for also being a member, but also gifting 5. So that's been a cracking wee Monday for us, and we appreciate everyone that helps us because the show doesn't work without you. Everyone that comments all the time, the same regulars. We love having you here. It makes me, Baz and Marcus, you know, I mean, that's why we come on every Monday, because you guys are listening and coming on the comments, and it's funny for us as well. It gives us some crack, and we really do enjoy doing it. So thank you for watching us. We'll be with you again soon. And Northern Ireland, let's get it done. And Rangers, let's keep our heads. Big things that could happen this season for us. Goodbye, everyone.